Lights down, truth up. Hollywood's golden age gave us glamour, legends, and silence. Behind every red carpet smile was a contract of erasure. For Black stars who were queer, the price of fame was often truth. Tonight, we uncover 18 powerful, complex, beautiful souls. Some who lived in whispers, some who died in shadows, and all who deserve to be fully seen. If you believe real history lives in what's left out, subscribe now. What you're about to hear might change how you see the stars and yourself. 1. Lorenzo Tucker, the Black Valentino. They tried to dim, he was called the Black Valentino, and that alone was dangerous. Lorenzo Tucker had the kind of beauty that made Hollywood uncomfortable. Dark skin, perfect posture, a magnetism that transcended race. But in the 1920s and 30s, being too desirable as a Black man was a problem. Rumors swirled not only about his private life, but about his type, that he wasn't interested in the women he was scripted to woo. He lived quietly, navigating a double life between the silver screen and Harlem's underground LGBTQ+ art scene. There, surrounded by writers, dancers, and painters, he found fleeting safety. But that freedom never followed him to set. Hollywood made sure of it, asking him to darken his skin further to make him less attractive to white women. Tucker never got the roles he deserved, but his legacy lives in every Black man who dared to be soft, beautiful, and proud in a world that tried to erase him. Don't let stories like this fade. Hit subscribe and keep the truth alive. 2. James Edwards, the leading man who was always second. James Edwards had everything: intellect, intensity, a screen presence that made casting directors pause. In The Manchurian Candidate, he proved he could outact anyone, but Hollywood refused to let him rise. Why? Because Edwards wouldn't bow to stereotypes, and whispers about his sexuality followed him wherever he went. He never married, rarely appeared at Hollywood parties with female companions, and spent much of his time in quiet circles with other male artists. Rumors hardened into obstacles. Big roles vanished without explanation. Some say it wasn't racism alone, it was homophobia in blackface. He wasn't just too Black for lead roles, he was too free, too unbending, too unafraid to be who he was, even if he never said it out loud. His story is a question Hollywood still hasn't answered. How many stars did you bury out of fear? For every name they tried to erase, subscribe, and help us remember louder. 3. Paul Winfield, a love that hid in award season shadows? With a voice like velvet thunder and eyes that could melt glass, Paul Winfield should have been everywhere. And for a while, he was. Sounder earned him an Oscar nomination. Star Trek etched his name into pop culture history, but behind the accolades was a truth wrapped in silence. Paul lived most of his life with the man he loved, and no one in Hollywood dared speak of it. Being Black and brilliant was one thing. Being gay? Career suicide. So Paul walked the red carpet with poise, while behind closed doors, he fought for a love the world wasn't ready to accept. He only came out near the end of his life, dignified, quiet, and already past the point of retaliation. He carried his truth like a weight and a shield, and even in silence, he paved the way for those who now speak freely. If you believe no actor should have to choose between truth and success, tap subscribe now. 4. Ramon St. Jacques, the cowboy who hit a fire. He was the first Black actor to star in a major Western series, and he didn't play the servant or sidekick. He played a man with a gun, a mission, and a presence too strong to ignore. Ramon St. Jacques shattered every mold Hollywood tried to cast him in. But behind the scenes, he lived another kind of rebellion. He never spoke publicly about his sexuality. He didn't need to. Whispers surrounded his home, a safe haven where young queer Black performers found refuge. He moved with confidence, but also caution, living on a tightrope stretched between racial pride and queer silence. Being Black in Hollywood was hard enough. Being gay and Black? That was exile. So Raymond kept one truth for the world and another for those who understood. His story wasn't just erased. It was actively hidden by the press, by the studios, by the myth of the straight Black masculine hero. He opened doors quietly. Let's speak his name loudly. Subscribe to bring his legacy into the light. 5. Noble Johnson, the mogul Hollywood let disappear. Before Hollywood ever uttered the word diversity, Noble Johnson was living it. He acted in King Kong, The Ten Commandments, and over 140 films. More than that, he founded the first Black-owned production company in film history. He wasn't just in the room, he built the room. But Noble Johnson never married, never had public romances, never explained the elite male company he kept. Industry insiders suspected the truth. He was one of the powerful gay men Hollywood couldn't quite control, so they chose to ignore. He had the money, the influence, the looks, but not the freedom to love. His silence wasn't weakness, it was armor. Some say he lived well, others say he lived half. What's certain is this: he made history while hiding his heart. You've heard of the moguls who conquered Hollywood, but have you heard of the ones it silenced? Subscribe to Remember Noble. 6. Billy Daniels, the crooner whose heart sang elsewhere. Billy Daniels made women swoon with every velvet note. He was the first Black performer to star in his own TV show, a Vegas headliner, a smooth-talking, lady-killing icon. But behind the smile and the tuxedo was a man keeping a dangerous secret. He spent years in a committed relationship with a male dancer. They lived, traveled, and created together. But Daniels never spoke a word of it. Instead, he leaned into the role of romantic icon, selling love songs to a world that demanded illusion. The industry knew. So did his friends. But silence was part of the gig. It bought protection and cost authenticity. Billy's story isn't rare, it's just rarely told. And it begs the question, how many legends were forced to sing someone else's song? Let the truth be the encore. Subscribe if you believe love shouldn't have to hide behind the curtain. 7. Canada Lee, the activist Hollywood was too afraid of Canada. Lee wasn't just an actor, he was a revolutionary. He spoke truth to power in Lifeboat, Cry, The Beloved Country, and on every stage he stepped on. But in 1950s America, a Black man with a voice was already a threat. A Black man rumored to be gay? That was unforgivable. As he fought racism publicly, whispers about his personal life swirled quietly. Longtime friendships with male writers and political activists became subjects of speculation. Then came the Red Scare. Suddenly, he wasn't just Black and queer-coded, he was labeled a communist, blacklisted, erased. He died at 45. Not from scandal, but from the weight of being too much for the times. Too bold, too Black, too complex. Even his casting in The Emperor Jones was stolen, handed to another legend with secrets of his own. If you've never heard of Canada Lee, that's not an accident. Subscribe to help undo the silence. 8. Johnny Mathis, the voice of romance and a lonely truth. Johnny Mathis made generations fall in love. His voice was silk, his image flawless, a Black man who could fill any room, cross over any chart. But behind the crooner smile was a truth he held in for decades. He was gay. He knew it. His close friends knew it. But the world? The world only found out after the curtain had mostly closed. In a quiet interview, he admitted it simply. Being gay is just a way of life. But in the 1950s and 60s, that way of life could cost everything. He never shared the names, never spoke about the heartbreaks or the hiding. But those who paid attention saw the loneliness behind the spotlight. He missed the Olympics by inches. He missed love by miles. You know his songs. But do you know the man who couldn't sing his own truth? Subscribe to hear the verses history left out. 9. Juano Hernandez, the gentleman who chose silence. Juano Hernandez did what few black actors could in the 1940s. He played serious, powerful men. In Intruder in the Dust, he stood tall not as a sidekick or caricature, but as a man of depth. Critics praised him, studios respected him, but no one really knew him. He never married, never gave interviews about love. Always seen with other artists, often men, but always at a distance. Friends say he was private. Others say he was protecting something sacred, himself. His dignity was legendary. So was his silence. And maybe that was the price of keeping both his career and his truth intact. Some pioneers speak loudly, others survive by whispering. Subscribe if you believe even the quiet ones deserve to be heard. 10. Frederick O'Neal, the leader with no love story. Frederick O'Neal fought for everyone, just not for himself. He co-founded the Negro Actors Guild, became the first black president of Actors Equity. He shattered walls for black performers across theater and film. But ask about his personal life? There's only silence. No public partners, no scandals, just quiet, rumors in Broadway hallways about fellow male creatives, whispered bonds, and a man who chose community over companionship. Some say he sacrificed love to stay politically untouchable. Others believe he was simply too afraid of what honesty would cost those he protected. Hollywood rewarded his advocacy with almost nothing. No leading roles, no major acclaim, just backstage passes to an industry he helped fix. He changed the game, but never got to play it fully. Subscribe to remember those who gave us a stage by never stepping into the spotlight. 11. Napoleon Whiting, the butler who hid a revolution. For 40 years, Napoleon Whiting played the background, a loyal butler in Gone with the Wind, a quiet presence in the Big Valley, always polite, always professional, and always standing one step behind the white stars. But when the cameras stopped, the real performance began. Whiting was part of a hidden network of Black LGBTQ+ performers, men who met discreetly, loved cautiously, built invisible circles of survival. He had long-term relationships with men in power, directors, producers, even a rumored white studio head. He was more than a servant. He was a guardian. His discretion didn't just protect him, it protected a whole generation of queer black artists living in code. Hollywood never gave him a lead, but in the margins, he led an entire underground world. Subscribe if you believe quiet heroes deserve loud remembrance. 12. Avon Long, the star Harlem never forgot. Avon Long wasn't just a performer, he was a storm. His voice lit up Broadway and Porgy and Bess. His charisma pulled people in like gravity. But his personal life? That stayed off stage. Rumors swirled through Harlem's art scene about secret romances, midnight visitors, and an apartment that doubled as a sanctuary for closeted black artists. Those who knew him say he gave comfort, advice, and sometimes shelter. But when asked about his heart, he'd smile and redirect the conversation. Avon played the charming rogue on stage, but in real life, he walked a careful line between beloved and invisible. Some performers play roles, others live them to survive. Subscribe if you believe the ones who made others feel seen shouldn't remain unseen. 13. Brock Peters, the hero they never let speak. Brock Peters made history playing Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird. His performance broke hearts and burned into film history. But behind the role of a falsely accused man stood another injustice, one Brock couldn't fight on screen. He never married, never brought a partner to public events, never spoke of love. But those who knew him whispered about a private life surrounded by men, intellectuals, artists, and a community that spoke in coded glances. His silence was deliberate, protective, maybe even necessary, because being openly gay in the 1960s was a career death sentence. And being black too? That was exile on arrival. He carried himself with such grace, people forgot to ask what he gave up to stay visible. He delivered eulogies for legends, but no one gave one for his truth. Subscribe if you believe dignity should never demand silence. 14. Ethel Waters, the voice that challenged every rule. She was the first Black woman nominated for an Emmy, a Broadway legend, a gospel queen with fire in her voice. But Ethel Waters wasn't just a musical force. She was a rule breaker in life, too. She wore men's clothes before it was fashion. She had long, intense relationships with women, though no one dared name them. Industry gossip danced around her queerness, but her performances said everything. Heartbreak, rage, desire, sometimes directed at women, hidden in plain sight. She was too masculine for white audiences, too unapologetic for Black respectability politics, too queer for history to write her name without editing. She sang like she couldn't be broken, but she lived in pieces. Subscribe if you believe queer Black women deserve more than footnotes. 15. Percy Rodriguez, the voice that knew what to hide. His voice sold movies before trailers were even a thing. Deep, commanding, unforgettable. Percy Rodriguez broke barriers as the first Black Starfleet commander on Star Trek. But off-screen, he kept his real life under lock and key. He never discussed partners, never appeared with a spouse. But industry whispers pointed to relationships with other men, often powerful, always hidden. And Percy? He kept watching, observing how the industry treated Black queerness, with fear, silence, and quiet erasure. Some say he stayed silent to protect others. Some say he just didn't want to fight a battle he knew he couldn't win. He gave voice to countless stories, but no one ever told his. Subscribe if you believe even the quiet deserve to be heard. 16. Alvin Ailey, the dancer who moved in shadows. Alvin Ailey didn't need words. His choreography screamed everything society told him to hide. As one of the most influential Black choreographers of the 20th century, he revolutionized modern dance. But even as his body told stories of freedom, his truth stayed locked in the wings. He was gay. Everyone close to him knew, but in interviews, he deflected. He feared losing his company's funding, feared alienating the very community he lifted. The intersection of Blackness, art, and queerness was too sharp to stand on out loud. He died of AIDS in 1989. Official cause? Blood disorder. The silence followed him to the grave. He gave the world movement and never got to stop running. Subscribe if you believe truth deserves a stage. 17. Josephine Baker, the spy who loved in every direction. Yes, Josephine Baker, the feathers, the banana skirt, the French resistance medals. She was more than a performer. She was a shapeshifter. And when it came to love, gender was never a boundary. While married to men, she had passionate affairs with women, most notably writer Colette and artist Frida Kahlo. The Black press often ignored these truths, choosing to celebrate her patriotism and motherhood over her complexity. She lived loud in France, but American media sanitized her legacy. No queer joy, no bisexuality, just myth. She deserved better. Behind the smile was a storm, Subscribe if you believe icons can be messy and still be heroes. 18. Harry Belafonte, the ally who may have been more. This one will spark debate. Harry Belafonte was a civil rights giant, a musical icon, and a heartthrob of his era. He was also extraordinarily close to openly gay artists, surrounded by queer Black creatives and fiercely protective of them. Though never confirmed, several accounts suggest Belafonte may have explored same-sex relationships during his time in the theater world. The rumors never stuck, but the intensity of his connection to queer causes did. Whether he was a closeted man or simply a fearless ally, one thing's clear. He walked beside the outcasts when it wasn't safe. The truth? Maybe we'll never know. But speculation often lives where silence once screamed. Subscribe if you're not afraid of the gray areas. They weren't just stars. They were warriors of silence. For every name whispered, denied, or edited out, there are millions who saw a version of themselves and stayed invisible. If this video stirred something in you, sadness, pride, rage, recognition, don't let it fade. Comment the number that hit hardest, share their story, and hit subscribe to help make the shadows louder than the scripts ever allowed.